Hello and welcome to episode 102 of Glitch Report. My name is GnittWitt. Thank you so much for stopping by, saying hi, kicking it with me today on the stream of dreams, the show of shows. You can find me on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, GnittWitt, and linktree.com/GnittWitt for more links to anything else you need or want, what you need. I got it. Baby, I got it. Excuse me. Welcome to today's episode. We have a huge amount of news to get to. Stuff revolving around Apex Legends, changing the way their battle pass system works, big shakeup over at Xbox Game Pass, XDefiant, kind of talking about the producer of XDefiant, kind of talking about what players can do if they've been experiencing bugs in the game. This will also be the last episode where I talk about the First Descendant. Spoilers for the podcast. I know it's like, whoa, can't believe that came out of left field, but this is going to be the last of the First Descendant, and we will cover that later on in the show. But let's get to Xbox Game Pass. Xbox Game Pass is getting a price increase and a, quote, standard tier with no day one releases. So from July 10th, the platform holders top Xbox Game Pass tier, which is Ultimate, which includes the PC Game Pass and day one games along with back catalog titles, online play, and cloud gaming, is also getting a price increase. So the thing to note is that they're not just taking away and changing, they are also increasing the price of the service as well. So, for the rest of this news segment, or for this news story, I should say, the prices that I'm quoting are in US dollars. So just keep that in mind. Also keep in mind that, Xbox does not regularly offer a annualized subscription the way that PlayStation Plus does. So from July 10th, Xbox Game Pass Ultimate will now be $20 a month. PC Game Pass is going to be $12 a month. Now, one thing to note is that PC Game Pass is going to continue to be what it is in the sense that you will still get day one games with it. You just don't get the the cloud gaming or the console gaming, right? So the thing about Ultimate is this idea that, like, hey, you have a PC and an Xbox, or you play Xbox online, and therefore and you want day one games, which is kind of what their thing is. I'll try to break it down a little bit better going forward. But the one thing to note is that PC Game Pass, of all the things, PC Game Pass is not getting any changes whatsoever except for the price increase. Now, Microsoft stated that starting this week, it will retire its Xbox Game Pass for console tier for new users, which will be replaced with a new $15 a month standard tier, which will include access to the back catalog of games and online play, but no day one releases or cloud gaming. Microsoft said, quote, some games available with Xbox Game Pass Ultimate on day one will not be immediately available for Xbox Game Pass Standard and may be added to the library at a future date. Users who currently have subscribed to Xbox Game Pass for console will be allowed to maintain their subscription, Microsoft said, including access to day one games. If you did not lock in Xbox Game Pass for console, you are not getting it. However, if at any time these users turn off their automatic pay renewal and their membership lapses, they will no longer have access to Game Pass for console, which will need to be, you'll need to join one of the other plans. So I'm looking at a list of the plans here. Forget the pricing for a moment. Here's what you get. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate is day one releases, console and PC catalogs, online console multiplayer play, and the cloud gaming. Xbox Game Pass, as well as day one releases. This is going forward. Xbox Game Pass Standard is the console catalog and online multiplayer, but no day one games. Xbox Game Pass Core is, quote, 25 plus high quality games on console, as well as online console multiplayer. From September 12th, Microsoft will only allow users to stack Xbox Game Pass for console for up to 13 months. Xbox Game Pass Core will receive an annual price increase to $75, which is up from $60, but will remain at $10 a month. This month's price changes mark the second consecutive year Microsoft has raised Game Pass prices, months after the company dismissed suggestions it could raise prices following its $69 billion merger with Activision Blizzard. Later this year, Call of Duty Black Ops 6 will launch day one on Game Pass, making the first time any Call of Duty game has been included in such a service at launch. Commenting on last year's price increase, Carrie Perez, which is Microsoft's head of gaming communications, told Video Games Chronicles, as always, shout out to Video Games Chronicles at the time, quote, "We've held on our prices for consoles for many years and have adjusted the prices to reflect the competitive conditions in each market." There's also a Game Pass frequently asked questions list that you can take a look at, but this is not good. I don't know if there's anyone who's sitting around being like, this is actually a better service. I'm getting more money. I'm getting more value for less. To me, this seems like two things. One, I'm sure glad I'm a I hate getting into like PC gaming elitists. Like, look at my sick machine, look at the graphics, look at the power, look at the Steam store, look at all this shit. But I'm sure glad that I have a PC game and that I'm so sure glad I have a gaming PC and that I did not invest in an Xbox console. I'm sure as shit glad I did not invest in an Xbox console, because why would I? I would have to pay almost like 50% more, if not a greater amount, depending on what tier I got into. I would have to pay out the ass just for day one games on Game Pass, right? Because I'm paying like US dollars. I'm paying $12 a month now. If I wanted day one games on a console, I would have to pay $20 a month. Get the fuck out of here, right? But the other thing is that what really grosses me out, and Microsoft is guilty of this, the same way that Sony is guilty of this, the same way Nintendo is guilty of this. I don't think we should be charging for online multiplayer play anymore. I know that if you have a free-to-play game, Fortnite or whatever, you do not need any subscription. You do not need any subscription in order to play that game online. It is a free-to-play game, meaning you do not need to pay for the service in order to play online. But if you went out and you spent money buying Call of Duty Black Ops 6, you would still need to pay for some tier of online multiplayer in order to play that game online. And that shit has got to stop. This should have stopped a long time ago. I have gone on and on and on about how fucked up the tier system is for both PlayStation Plus and Game Pass. And instead of making it better, instead of making it more simple, and at a time when Microsoft should be making it as easy as ever for people to get into playing games like Black Ops 6 or Indiana Jones or whatever, they have made it worse. Every time they change it, they make it worse. Make it make sense to me. And I'm not even going to get into the financials. I'm not even going to get into anything. But I don't think Microsoft's hurting for money. I think their profit margin is just fine, right? Just fine. How many people do they have to lay off? Or how many more people would they have to lay off in order to get into a position where they did not need to increase the price of Game Pass? I'm not saying they should. By all means, like, do not touch any other studio for as long as you possibly can, because those people are the ones who are trying to make games that add value to your service that you keep devaluing by increasing the price and changing the perks and benefits of the service that you provide. It's outrageous. I'm so annoyed. I'm so mad at this. And if you think like, oh, he's just picking on Microsoft, PlayStation has a completely fucked tier too. The tiered system in PlayStation is just as bad. And Nintendo has only made theirs more confusing, but at least it's only 2 tiers, I guess. But then technically there's 5 tiers of Game Pass compared to the 3 tiers of PlayStation compared to the 2 tiers of Nintendo, because you might still be holding on to Game Pass for console, which is a hell of a better deal than Game Pass standard, but you might have PC Game Pass. That's 5 tiers. There should be like half as many tiers. Like, I don't even know if 3 is the magic number. All right? But we see this more and more with other services that are out there, right? Don't get me wrong. There are companies that are offering, content, streaming content services that keep it incredibly simple and incredibly effective, make it easy to share with family and friends. I'm not picking on those companies. They're offering services, and I think that works out. But Jesus Christ, like, this should be the most like just idiot proof system, and it's not. But you know what they're doing? They're doing the like movie theater popcorn sort of thing. I'll tell you what I mean by that. If you go to a movie theater and you want a medium popcorn, you're going to look at that and say, well, shit, for only 30 cents more, I could get a large, or whatever the price is. It's usually a very small difference, right? Usually when you go to a movie theater, the small popcorn is about as cheap as it's going to get. The medium is quite a bit more expensive, but the large is just a tiny bit more expensive than the medium, forcing you to always go with the large. Large popcorn, large pop. And this is not like me talking about my philosophy of when I go to the movie theater and stuff my face. I'm talking about looking at the price of shit like that in a movie theater. And this is just an analogy. This also works for other things, right? Because when I look at this new tier system that we have, forget the PC Game Pass for a moment. When I look at this new tier system that we have, I think to myself, well, okay, I could like buy a game. Like if I buy Madden once a year and I play Madden online, I guess Xbox Game Pass Core isn't that bad of a deal, because I'm going to get to play Call of Duty if I buy it, or Madden if I buy it online with my friends. Oh, and I'll also get 25 high quality games. Their words, not mine. High quality games for console as well. 25 games, that's more games than I would play in a year. So that seems like a pretty decent deal. And then you look at Game Pass Standard and you're like, okay, it's the same thing, but now I'm getting, 25 times 4, 25 times 5, the amount of games that I would get, that I would have access to with Game Pass Core. But I still need to buy Call of Duty in order to play it. But only for a little bit more. I can get all of that stuff. Plus I can get the EA Play membership. That's the other thing I should mention, is that if you want to play last year's Madden for free on an Xbox, actually I'll give you a better example, because Madden also comes to PC. If you want to play last year's NHL or UFC for free online, you will need Xbox Game Pass Ultimate anyways. So what they've done is they've gutted the middle tier system, the middle tier offering, to make it the worst possible tier in terms of value. Now, I've done this before, I'll do it again. Let's look at PlayStation Plus. Essential. You get the free monthly games, you get online play, you get the cloud storage, and then you also get the discounts. They all get, everybody gets discounts. Sure, you get a discount, everybody gets a discount. All right, that's the PlayStation Plus Essential tier. Extra gives you the game, gives you everything already mentioned, plus the game catalog, plus Ubisoft classics. Okay. Premium gets you everything in Extra and Essential, plus game trials, plus the classics catalog, plus PS5 cloud streaming, and Sony Pictures catalog. Now, PlayStation has done this thing where, because they are in the lead in terms of sales and popularity, PlayStation has done this thing, and you can call me crazy, where unless you really want to play old games or play a 2-hour trial of Baldur's Gate 3, I actually think that the middle tier, the fucking Goldilocks and the Three Bears scenario we've now created, is actually the better tier. I think Extra is the better tier, unless you want to play. Sony Pictures catalog, I'm not gonna fucking watch a Sony picture on my PlayStation Plus. That's just, what? No world am I going to be watching like Sony movies on this thing, right? However, the thing to note is that Extra is $18 a month compared to Premium, which is $22 a month. So the thing that Sony did is they just have a slightly more expensive system than something like Game Pass, right? But again, if you play free-to-play games, this doesn't affect you at all. You'll still be able to play those games for free if you want. I hate to kick off the podcast just being so fired up and so sour, but that Xbox Game Pass system sucks, dude. They've made it worse and worse and worse, especially at a time when they came out of Summer Game Fest with the best showcase. And the big seller was that all of those games, whether you wanted to play Avowed or Indiana Jones or Black Ops or Gears of War 6 E-Day or whatever, you didn't have to think about it. You just got it for free on Game Pass. And technically you still can. It's just that now you have to get the most expensive tier of Game Pass unless you got grandfathered into the Xbox console one or you're a PC gamer. Thank God, I'm a PC gamer, and I hate to just sound like such an asshole when I say that, but like, man, fuck this console shit. This seems so confusing. Like, at least when I buy a Nintendo Switch 2, whenever that comes out, I'll know that I'm probably never going to play that thing online. And unless I really want to play old Nintendo games, I can just buy a Nintendo Switch and not have to think about a Nintendo Switch 2 and not have to think about any of this other bullshit. Now, this next news story, Apex Legends. The players of Apex Legends are now criticizing plans to shake up how the Battle Pass system works. I'm talking about this because even free-to-play games are fucking with you. Even free-to-play games are out to extract as much money from you as humanly possible. The greed never ends. The greed will never end. The greed never ends in this scenario because prior to these changes, if you played Apex Legends, you could earn a premium in-game currency. It is a currency that you can both earn and buy with real money. But back before these changes occurred, you could earn a premium currency in the game that you could then use to buy the Battle Pass. The Battle Pass lasted however many days, months it did. You could probably earn a little bit of currency through playing playing through the Battle Pass system, rinse and repeat, right? Not the worst system, and a lot of other games do it too. Apex Legends is now throwing all of that away, along with a lot of goodwill that Respawn has built up over the years. No thanks to parent company EA, because now Apex Legends will feature a $2 $10 Battle Pass per season, and they will only be purchasable with real money. So I don't know how long battle passes typically run. Let's just put a number there. Let's say it's 3 months, 4 months, right? 4 months to, or three, let's say 3 months. 3 months to grind out a battle pass before it all goes away. But now it's going to cost you $20. You're going to have to buy 2 because you only get half of the first one. It's so gross because season 21 is the current season of Apex Legends. You can buy that battle pass for 950 Apex coins. Don't ask me what the conversion rate on Apex coins is. I don't know. Right? But the battle pass has the current season has 110 levels in it to earn and unlock. Costs 950 Apex coins. Now, and here's the other thing to note is that it costs about $10 US to buy 1,000 Apex coins with real money. However, you can earn some Apex coins from the seasonal battle pass to put towards the future ones. So if you are someone who just wants to unlock costumes and all sorts of shit in Apex and just play nothing but Apex Legends, you could buy the battle pass and then earn enough money, or potentially earn enough money to get the next one for free or at a discount, so you won't have to buy another $10 worth of Apex coins. So they've doubled the price, and they don't even allow you to earn in-game currency to make that a little bit cheaper. Because now each battle pass will be split in 2 for $10 real world currency, no Apex coins, no nothing. Holy shit. Like, I don't even play Apex Legends and I'm like, fucking what? It's so gross. Dude, it's fucking gnarly. Like, that's you are getting less of a service for more money. This is literally maybe not doubling the price. Microsoft didn't quite double the price, but like, this seems like doubling the cost and reducing the value. And I don't even play Apex Legends. Like, I'm not here to talk shit about the game or whatever. It's not quite my thing. But that's gross. That's really bad. I don't even want to read the statement that EA put out. The reason why I don't want to do it is because they're going to put their spin on it. They're going to say words like to offer the best value and all of that stuff. And when you look at the numbers, that is the exact opposite of what they're trying to do. So why would I waste your time as someone who is here for the podcast? Why would I spew bullshit from EA about the nature of this change when you and I both know? I don't care if you've never played Apex Legends. What I just told you should be all that you need to know that people who play it are getting fucked. So I'm not even going to read the EA statement. I cannot be bothered. If you want to, go ahead, but we're going to move on from this news story because it is absolute garbage. Speaking of moving on, XDefiant has had a rocky go at it. It really has. I've talked about how I've been playing that game off and on for years now, in some sort of closed testing, open testing, capacity. They then put out that game for free to play, full release, and people continue to criticize that game, saying that there are a lot of bugs with the game. There are a lot of problems with the game. Again, my criticism of the game is it just hasn't felt much different. It just hasn't improved that much. I didn't run into necessarily a lot of bugs and things with the game. However, I just felt that it did not get a lot of, significant changes and improvements over the literal years that I have spent. Well, maybe not spent, but the literal years I've been playing that game off and on. So the XDefiant producer, Mark Rubin, took to Twitter to say that if you're struggling with bugs in the game, that's okay. You can, quote, move on. Quote, you can move on. Let's read what Mark Rubin had to say. This is in response. So the one thing to note is that Mark Rubin, the producer over at the team working on XDefiant, Ubisoft's free-to-play first-person shooter, kind of a Call of Duty competitor, was responding to somebody on Twitter who said that XDefiant was rushed out. That this person on Twitter is blaming Mark Rubin and XDefiant for putting out a game that is rushed out. Specifically, they said, I feel like XDefiant was rushed out because of Grand Theft Auto 6 and Black Ops 6. What are your thoughts? And I think if you've been listening to me talk about XDefiant since the show started, you know that the issues with again, you don't need to play it, but the issues with XDefiant have nothing to do with the game being rushed out. So I am with what Mark Rubin says here. Whether I like the game or not, doesn't matter. The problems with XDefiant have almost nothing to do with this sense of it being rushed out. Here's what Mark Rubin said on Twitter. Quote, rushed out? ? No. What we have is an engine that has only ever been an MMO. And so all the infrastructure for our first-person shooter has had to be built up from the ground floor. Even Call of Duty started on id Tech, which was a shooter engine. Apex Legends started on a shooter engine. But for us, we are working on developing all new tech in an engine that was designed for something else. That being said, the engine is really great, but it does require a lot of work, and with that work comes a lot of bugs that other engines have already worked out. We're not a shooter that's been out for 20 years. If you like what we are trying to do, stick around and you'll see things improve and new features get added. But if this game isn't for you, that's okay. You can move on. And I think two things. One, if I'm Yves Guillemot over at Ubisoft and I'm hearing that one of the producers on one of our free-to-play games, one of our recent free-to-play games, is suggesting that people move on, I'm going to be fucking pissed. I'm not saying anything should happen to Mark Rubin. I'm nothing like that. But like, the capitalist mindset says that we need to have infinite growth. We need to constantly be making money. We need to be growing this company. We need more players playing more games, spending more money on more games and all this shit. So when I hear, if I was Yves and I heard somebody say, you don't have to play the game, it's okay, I would be fucking alarm bells going of like, what the fuck's going on with XDefiant, right? But the other thing I would say is that more people should move on from games. Seriously. There was a news story. I didn't cover it. I don't want to cover it. A news story talking about how Helldivers 2, the people playing, the more and more people are walking away from Helldivers 2. More and more people are quitting Helldivers 2. And there's a different problem with XDefiant as Helldivers. In the case of Helldivers 2, that game is fucking old. Helldivers 2 is an old game. It's been out for like 6 months. It's an old game. Doesn't matter how many updates they've done to the game or whatever. Helldivers 2 has been around the block for some time. And the best thing that you can do, whether you finished playing a game or you have found yourself playing a game you don't like, is to move on. That's how things used to work back in the day. And I hate to sound like an old man, but like, yes, you might have spent years of your life playing Quake 3 online or World of Warcraft or whatever. But you know what you were probably doing in the meantime? You were probably going in between other games. And I think that's one of the things that people just cannot wrap their mind around, is this idea that we are going to be constantly playing the same games over and over for years and years and years on end. And don't get me wrong, there are some people that are doing that. There are probably some people who have done nothing with their gaming time besides play Madden or Call of Duty or Fortnite. We've been over this before, right? But especially in a scenario where you aren't enjoying the game, like, yes, you can take to social media or you can participate in whatever the community outreach program that XDefiant has to voice your concerns. But you know what you can do? You can move on. You can move on. I know I moved on with the First Descendant, excuse me. I moved on from that game. If I can move on, and I'll move on from a lot of other games. Whether they're free to play, whether they're live service, constantly updated games, whether they're single player games, multiplayer games, co-op games, whatever. If I can move on, so can you. Now, I would like to see XDefiant become a good game. Well, wouldn't that be awesome if XDefiant became a good game? It's not there yet, but who knows if it will improve. The problem is that it seems like the team working on XDefiant, and you could argue a poor craftsman blames his tools, whatever. I'm not here to have that conversation. But I think that they are working with tech that is making it harder, not easier, to improve the game. And that may contribute to what has been a pretty rocky launch for XDefiant. Now, the last 3 news stories, the last 2, feel like Glitch Report classics. This feels like we're playing the hits to some extent, right? I'm, fucking REO Speedwagon on tour, and I'm not going to play the new album. I'm just going to play the stuff that people know. I don't know why I just compared myself to REO Speedwagon, but the point is, maybe I'm comparing myself to REO Speedwagon because I'm about to turn 30, which doesn't make any sense either. If you ask a bunch of 30-year-olds what an REO Speedwagon is, they would probably have no idea what you're talking about. They're probably old people that listen to this podcast, if there are old people. I have not looked at the data recently. But if there are old people that tune into this show, watch it on YouTube or, whatever, they may know what an REO Speedwagon is, but not a lot of 30-year-olds. So we're going to play a classic. Let's talk about our good friends over at Embracer Group. Embracer Group have shut down Gothic and Elex Studio Piranha Bytes. The Piranha Bytes team also worked on Risen. They have been around since 1997, had about 31 full-time employees when they were purchased by Embracer in May of 2019. A former employee told CD Action that the German studio ceased operation at the end of June after financing from parent company Embracer Group ended, and it had failed to find a new owner or publishing partner. It was reported in January that Piranha Bytes was facing closure as part of the Embracer Group's ongoing restructuring efforts unless it could secure new funding. The company had reportedly hoped to secure a cash injection to develop a new dark fantasy title resembling Gothic using the Unreal 5 engine. It's claimed that Piranha Bytes is unlikely to release any official statements regarding the fate of the studio, instead allowing it to go out quietly. Embracer announced in last June that it was implementing its restructuring program, which basically meant shutting down everybody. Now, there is a bit of hope. There's some good news. Bjorn, Piranha Bytes veterans Bjorn Pankradze and Jennifer Pankradze are a married couple who are veterans at Piranha Bytes, and they have announced that they are opening a new studio called Pithead Studio. Now, they reportedly left Piranha Bytes in November, and then have started announcing this stuff as part of it. So maybe that means they can absorb some of the people. 31 people is pretty small for for a studio that, of the kind of status of a Piranha Bytes. So I don't know how many of those people they can absorb, but I hope everybody lands on their feet at Piranha Bytes. I hope nothing but success for Pithead Studio, and I wish them the best of luck going forward. I am convinced that I have talked more about this game than I have spent playing it. And I've played this game. This isn't a scenario where like I'm talking out of my ass about something like Apex Legends or whatnot. I am convinced with like every fiber in my being that this goddamn game has been talked about more on this podcast than it has been played. Actually, okay, that's probably not true. I just looked at the play time on Xbox. But still, it feels like it. City Skylines 2. Who can forget City Skylines 2? Did you know that game was supposed to come to consoles? If you didn't remember, that's okay. I'm here to remind you. But I'm also here to remind you that it has been delayed again, this time indefinitely. Here's the timeline. In case you were wondering, the timeline of City Skylines 2. The game was originally scheduled to be released for PS5 and Xbox Series X and S, alongside the PC version in October of 2023. But the console release was then delayed to spring of 2024 and more recently to this October. However, in an update on publisher Paradox Interactive's forums today, a fresh delay. A fresh is a fun way to describe the delay of City Skylines 2, but I digress. A fresh delay was confirmed, saying, quote, "Unfortunately, we have not met the stability and performance targets we set for the console release. Without a release candidate, we are now unable to meet an October release window. While we are making slow but steady progress, there are still unresolved issues impacting the game in ways that harm the player experience we want to deliver. We expect to receive a new RC, which will undergo a thorough review in August. This evaluation will determine whether we can begin the submission process and provide a solid release date, or if further issues need to be addressed. We understand this is disappointing and it's not what we had hoped for either. However, we are committed to keeping you informed throughout the development process, even if the updates aren't always what we'd like." Now in April, Paradox announced that the customers who purchased City Skylines 2 first DLC would be refunded, with the content set to be added to the base game for free after, quote, "being rushed out in an unsatisfactory state." Further, paid DLC was also delayed alongside the game's console version. In June, Paradox announced plans to close its Tectonic studio following the cancellation of Sims rival Life by You. So this is where I'd like to ask you as the listener, you as the viewer. I would like to ask you a question. Should I go back to City Skylines 2? Like, I would like for the record, I would like to play a city building game. I think having a city building game on the go I can pop into every now and then, I think that's fun. I think that's a great idea. But do you think, like, just purely based on the amount of times this game has been in the news, based purely on, the controversy, do you think they could have possibly improved it enough to make it something that I should be checking out again? Should I do this? I have not kept up with the news and all that stuff. I've not kept up with like the raw updates to the game, right? So I don't know. But I'm wondering, have they made it better? I just don't know. I would be curious to find out. And our final news story, a game that I was curious to check out, I checked out, and then I checked out of it, if you know what I'm saying, is Exoprimal. If you don't remember, Exoprimal is the third-person dinosaur shooter from Capcom, the multiplayer shooter from Capcom. And it was supposed to be a live service game. It came out for free on Game Pass, sold on consoles and PC. And it was a sci-fi cooperative online dinosaur shooting game. And they were doing the battle passes, and you could buy, skins and costumes and different characters and all that stuff. And they've now announced that the seasonal content for Exoprimal is ending. They will not be making new seasons of content. They will not be making new battle passes. However, previous content will return starting next week for the foreseeable future. Following this, the previous monthly content for the game will return monthly, beginning with Season 1, which starts next week. Quote, all gameplay modes will remain available to play. This includes the main Dino survival mode, as well as endgame content such as Savage Gauntlet and Time Loop Rebellion. If you're playing alone or match with only a few other players, bots will still be added so that you can fully enjoy the Hammerhead story and reach the ending. I know somebody who bought the battle pass for Exoprimal. I'm not like picking on them or anything like that. I know a guy who was playing enough Exoprimal, at least at one point in his life, and bought the battle pass, the first season of battle pass, the first season battle pass for Exoprimal. I don't know if they ever ended up playing enough of the game to rank up the battle pass or not. I am waiting for a text message from them to get their thoughts on where's my phone? Slapping my mic around. Yeah, I'm still waiting on a text message from this person. But oh, you know what? I never actually I texted them about some other bullshit. I didn't text them about Exoprimal. But anyways, this guy I know, this good friend of mine I know, who played Exoprimal, bought the battle pass. I will be very curious to hear his thoughts about it because, yeah, Exoprimal. All right, we're gonna move on to games that I have been playing. It's funny because when I was writing up my notes for the podcast today, I have like two monitors. So if you can just imagine the setup for a moment, I have the microphone, which is pretty much facing directly in front of me, along with the camera facing in front of me. Slightly to the left, I have the monitor, which has my notes and my kind of scheduled agenda for the podcast on it. And then to the right of the camera, I have the monitor that I use to like monitor audio and video and recordings and all that stuff. When I was doing the notes for the podcast today, and I was writing down games I've been playing, I wrote down 2. I guess I kind of been playing 3. I wrote down games that I've been playing, and I wrote down The Last Descendant. And I forgot that the game is called The First Descendant. So this is going to be the last of the First Descendant talk because I am done with that game. If you remember when we were talking about it last week, I felt like it had good bones. I thought there was like the game had potential. I thought the gameplay was decent. I thought the abilities were okay. I thought the monetization, the way that it's a free-to-play game, the way that they want you to spend money in the game was fucked. The things that you could spend money on the game was fucked. I thought the pricing for everything in the game was fucked. I just thought, like, in general, the price to play this game in a premium fashion is very steep, and I don't think I want to spend any money in this game. So then I started thinking about it. Free-to-play games, and I think this even goes for some of the premium games that offer this sort of monetization. And I know you might think this is weird because it's a free-to-play game. You technically don't and you shouldn't put any money into it. But I have a hard time playing a free-to-play game that I couldn't see myself spending money in. Let me say that again. I have a hard time playing a free-to-play game that I couldn't see myself spending money in. And I think ultimately that's what killed The First Descendant for me. Is this thought of, I don't think my wallet is big enough to want to spend what I would want to spend to see significant change and improvements in the game. I don't think there's anything that I would want to buy regardless of the price. Like I don't care enough about this world. I don't care enough about these characters. I don't care enough about the guns that I'm picking up to want to buy a paint job or a skin that changes the way the gun looks when 20 minutes later, I just might find a better gun to throw away that other gun anyways. So like when I spent money in like Fortnite, to me, it was this thought of like, well, I might go back to like, even if I stop playing Fortnite, I might go back to it one day and my John Cena will be there. And then I can just play as John Cena again. And maybe I'll, you know, play enough to be like, oh, I had a good time. I'm going to put it down or whatever. Right. And something like, you know, Fortnite, you're not buying any significant gameplay changes. You're either buying the battle pass so that you have a progression that you can unlock stuff in as you play more of the game, or you're buying just skins and cosmetics and costumes and all that shit, right? You're buying John Cena, you're buying Peter Griffin, whatever. And that's a free to play game. And that's why I didn't feel so bad, playing it and playing a little bit of it every now and then, is because my thought process was, well, I might go back to it one day and, you know, I feel like I'm getting a decent deal out of this, right? Whatever the $20, $30 I spent to get John Cena or however much he cost, doesn't seem that unreasonable, considering they're not charging anything that's going to make the game better or make it easier to play, unlike something like the First Descendant, where I can literally buy better characters and upgrades and shit instead of spending that time earning it in the game. Destiny 2 is one of those things where the base game is free to play. If you want more story content, if you want more planets to explore, if you want more stuff to do in the game, you have to buy the additional content. Of course, you can also spend money on, you know, the cosmetics and the costumes and all that shit. But the thing that they're selling you is traditional expansions that include additional cutscenes and story content and planets and all that stuff. And I was already buying the additional content for Destiny 2 because I enjoyed playing Destiny 2 and I wanted to see where the story went. Okay, if I want to know more about the story, I got to buy, you know, the new expansion or whatever they're called, right? The Witch Queen or whatever. And then, by buying this expansion, I earned some premium currency that I could use to buy a costume, but I have just not enough premium currency. So I'll buy a little bit more premium currency. And now I bought a costume that makes me look like a dinosaur or whatever. Again, felt like a fair deal. And honestly, it felt like a fair deal. But nothing about the First Descendant seems like a good deal. Like, other than the part where I think the shooting is okay, that's kind of it, because I put a couple more hours into that game and it quickly became incredibly repetitive. Like, the missions just became the same thing over and over again. Those boss battles, those big giant colossus like boss battles that you had. The first one, pretty easy to fight. The second one takes forever. Oh my God. Like, it didn't take long for that game to become a slog. And I'm sure that if I spent a little bit more time grinding it out, you know, leveling up the character, getting better guns, that I might be like a couple steps ahead of the game for a period of time if I just repeated a lot of that stuff. The problem is that even if I repeat old missions so that new missions become easier, those new missions play almost exactly like the old missions, just in slightly different locations, featuring a story that I don't care about. So to me, it just felt like, why am I doing this? Right? I feel like I've seen enough of the game to make a decent judgment call, even if that judgment call comes off as the opposite of what I felt like last week. I just didn't see myself spending money, so I had a hard time seeing myself investing any other time into the game. Right? I think about a game like Fallout 76, where you can spend real money to get some booster gameplay benefits in the game. It's purely optional. The main content that they've provided for that game has been free updates. So even if you feel like you're on this fucked up treadmill in Fallout 76 of like, well, I could get some slightly better boosters if I spent some money, or I subscribe to their monthly membership or whatever. I still think the core of what Fallout 76 respects enough of your time, even if you buy it, which it is a paid game, unlike you have to buy to get into Fallout 76, unlike something like the First Descendant. But even if you buy into Fallout 76, it respects your time enough that it makes seeing that through that content a little more worth it. I don't think that's the case with the First Descendant. So I wash my hands of the First Descendant. I am done with that game. And to be honest, like, I'm a little frustrated that I have to think about games like this. Right? Like, I am someone who does enjoy getting into a live service game, you know, looking forward to big updates, constantly playing that stuff. Like, I look forward to it. Hell, I still look forward to seeing what new, you know, modes and updates are coming to something like Forza Horizon 5. And that game's fucking old, dude. But again, with Forza, you know, as much as they have added more things I can spend real money on, I'm still like, okay, what's the free stuff I can unlock? Is it worth my time? Do I want to do it? Or do I want to just fuck around playing the game that I still enjoy playing? I just never felt like I was going to get to that point in the First Descendant, which is why I decided to walk away. If you're listening to this and you are trying to decide if you should get into some sort of free-to-play live service game, I think I can make some recommendations, and I'll do so right here, right now. If you are looking for some sort of story-based free-to-play shooter, and I'm just talking free-to-play games. I'm not talking live service games in general, right? So I'm not referencing something like Fallout 76, which is technically not a free game, right? I'm just talking free-to-play. If you were looking for some sort of free-to-play story-based shooter, I think Destiny, as much as I don't want to play Destiny anymore and I don't want to support Bungie at this time, I think Destiny 2 is a better option than the First Descendant. And I think Warframe is a better example than the First Descendant. I think that does a lot of what the First Descendant tries to do, but just does so in a better way. If you wanted something that is more action focused in terms of you're not shooting, but it's like melee combat. For what it's worth, I think Genshin Impact is okay. I do. It does have a lot of fucked up monetization bullshit in it, but I think Genshin Impact is not a bad option. Warframe, not a bad option. What else is even on here? You know what I'm gonna do is I'm not gonna look at the PC ones because there's so much more PC stuff on Steam. I'm actually gonna load up the PlayStation Store for a moment because this will actually give me a better idea. Free to play. Here we go. There's a zillion free to play games on PC because of course there is. But what are like the hot free to play games on PlayStation? Yeah, like I said, if you're looking for some sort of story based thing, I think Destiny 2 and Warframe are good. If you're looking for a free to play shooter, I still think that the Fortnite is decent. I think Call of Duty Warzone is okay. I'm not like crazy about it. I think Genshin Impact is all right. The Sims 4 is technically free to play if that's your thing. I think Sims 4 is a great game, whether it's free to play or not. I think Rocket League is a good free to play game. How do I just show me all the free to play stuff? Just show me all of the games. I don't. Well, they're not actually going to show me a list. Okay, well, fine. Anyways, you know, whatever store you're on, like, check out the free to play stuff that's available because while it is only going to cost you your time, I think at the end of the day, like, there's a Path of Exile, for example, a better game than the First Descendant. Warframe, a better game than the First Descendant. Destiny 2, better than the First Descendant. So I wash my hands of the First Descendant and we move on to something else. So the Steam Summer Sale has come and gone. It is officially over. And I did end up buying a couple of games during the sale. I bought them both in Steam and I bought keys on other places and stuff like that. So my official list of games that I bought during the Steam Summer Sale are Sprawl, the first person shooter Sprawl, the first person shooter Turbo Overkill, the kind of top down postal-esque shooter Maniac. I also bought Atari 50, the anniversary celebration, and I bought V Rising. And of the games that I've bought so far, the only one I have had a chance to play is V Rising. I have put about 6 hours into V Rising, and I'm excited, to talk about it. I'm excited to play more of it. V Rising, if you don't know, is the kind of top-down action RPG meets. Well, it's actually more of a survival crafting building game with some action RPG stuff thrown in. So V Rising has been out for quite some time. It was an early access game. It finally made its way to full release in May of this year. There's also on PC, there are also console versions of V Rising, if that is your thing, but I've been playing some V Rising. And I knew going in that it was primarily a survival crafting game, right? A resource management game with some action thrown in. So the premise is that there's not, and also I'll just mention, like, you hear vampire, you think story. There's very little story in this game. There's a premise, there's a setup, and you can read a lot of like optional text and, like item descriptions and stuff like that to get more flavor of the world. But like, other than the opening cutscene that explains how you got there, we're not having like cutscene stuff in this game. There's not a lot of story stuff in this game. So just keep that in mind. But what it is it's an action kind of survival game. The premise is that you are one of the last, surviving vampires, and it's up to you to kind of the big focus of V Rising is building a castle. So you are a vampire, you create a character. I think it's got a really good look, really kind of like, it's kind of cartoonish, but not like super. It almost kind of reminds me, there are moments where it kind of reminds me of like the Batman, the animated series, like the 90s series, in terms of just the way some characters look to some extent. It's not quite that, but the idea is that you're building up your vampire, you're making a vampire, you're building them up, collecting resources in the environment, which means chopping down trees, mining stone, harvesting, bones and other resources from animals in the environment, and you're building a castle. And a lot of the progression, we're not going to call it story, but a lot of the progression in the game is tied to you finding new unlocks to upgrade the castle. So you start out the game and you can only build like wooden walls for the castle, right? And then you eventually, find better material that you can use to upgrade the walls to make them stone walls. And the stone walls do things like they keep sunlight out. Because one of the cool things about this game is that sunlight is deadly. So it has a day and night cycle. So, give it enough time and day becomes night, night becomes day. But during the daytime, you have to move from, it's a top-down action game. So you're moving in real time and all that stuff with a controller. But you basically have to move from shadow to shadow between trees and rocks and cliffs and all that stuff. Because if you get caught in the sunlight and you stand in the sunlight too long, you take significant damage. So the importance is to build a proper shelter, build a proper castle that keeps the sun out or is tucked away in some forested area of the world in order to make sure that sunlight doesn't creep into your castle and then start setting you on fire. It's cool stuff like that. But eventually you can get like stone. You can eventually upgrade your castle to get stone walls, and those keep the sunlight out a lot better. It also allows for windows. So if you're trying to go for like a pretty or a stylish looking look to your castle and stuff like that, you can. Now there is action and there is combat in the game. You are hunting things like skeletons for materials and wolves for material. You can hunt animals and deer and all that stuff for material and stuff in the game. There is no hunger meter, so you don't have to ever worry about like getting hungry or thirsty. You just have to worry about not being caught in the sunlight. And while you can regain your health by drinking blood, you can also store that blood in your inventory, for lack of a better word, and then consume that blood as needed in order to regain health. Now there is combat. You can equip things like swords and axes and clubs and crossbows and spears. You do also get spells in the game. So I currently have like a spell that like casts an area of ice that like freezes enemies and does damage. I can also shoot like a shadow bolt through the environment, through the air to attack an enemy and stuff like that. Which is cool. I can also turn into a wolf. The wolf I use often for traversing through the environment. It also makes it a lot faster to move from a shaded area to shadow and stuff like that, especially when I'm traveling through the day. And in the environment, they basically give you, like in your inventory, they give you this book of bosses, and you can just find these bosses in the environment. And usually by killing the bosses, that's what gives you the recipe or the material or the, the upgraded, thing that you need to keep progressing in the castle. So I went from a very rudimentary, sticks, wooden castle now to a much bigger castle that has 2 floors in it. I used to only have like a rancher style castle. Now I have a second floor in my castle. And I have, but you're not just crafting like the castle itself. You're also crafting like, sawmills and workbenches and, like leather tanner machines and furnaces for smelting ore, because it's one of those games where you are constantly out there hunting for resources. You're storing them in your chests and containers. You are feeding those resources to, I went and chopped some trees, and by chopping the trees, I got raw wood. But then by taking the raw wood to my sawmill, I can get planks, and the planks are used for helping to construct the castle in better ways and stuff like that. Right. So it is very much a carrot on a stick sort of game in terms of, I just need to find this thing to get the upgrade, and that'll allow me to do this and stuff like that. Again, there's not a lot of story, but I find it to be a very cozy game in the sense that, like, there are times when I am not focusing on combat or hunting or anything, and I'm just, hey man, I just want to build this castle. Like, I just want to, maybe I'll clear out some land in my area. You kind of pick a plot. Like, once you start the game and you explore the open world enough to get a sense of where you need to be, you are basically picking a plot of land in the open world to set your castle. They do make it very easy for you to teleport your castle if you need to. Kind of like very Dracula-esque thing of like, I'm so powerful I can just move a castle like magic. And you can teleport to different locations. It does cost a little bit of resources and stuff like that to do so. But you can like teleport a whole castle if you find a better location after starting the game for 6, 7, 8 hours, whatever you've been doing. But it's a lot of fun. I think the combat can be a little bit difficult at times because all of your character strength is tied to your gear. So if you are using a shitty sword, or you're getting or you have a weak armor, that's going to do a disservice to you. But it's not like I can go fight a bunch of enemies and then become stronger and more powerful. I have to craft better gear. I have to find better resources to improve the character in order to keep going in V Rising. So, this came out of early access earlier this year. I'm really enjoying it. It has a lot of the same ideas as something like Pal World. So if you're like, does this kind of sound like Pal World, where you're, crafting shit and finding stuff in the environment and building resource and all that stuff? Totally. The thing with Pal World is they get you going very early in terms of capturing the creatures so that you can use them for harvesting and resources and managing your base. I just unlocked the thing in V Rising where I can now find humans in the world and enslave them to my castle. I built like a servant coffin. So you basically have to build individual coffins for the people that you have working in your castle. I don't have any people working in my castle just yet. I just unlocked that ability. So I'm going to try to find me a good looking human and take them to my castle, and we'll check that out and see how that goes. Which should be fun. But I'm really enjoying it. I feel like I'm still very early in the game. I feel like, that 6 hour mark is going to be a hell of a lot of a different experience once I'm 20, 30 hours in. Maybe I have like a huge skyscraper castle, or, I have crazy weapons and powers and all that stuff. But it is a lot of fun. I am still, the jury is still out, I think, in terms of how much I'll keep playing this game, but I've been enjoying it so far. There's still a lot to play. And it's just one of those things of like, you're not worried about story. You're not worried about really anything other than surviving, which isn't even that hard to do. There is a ton of difficulty options in the game. I did set it to be a fairly easy game, so I haven't had to worry too much about, oh, I used my sword and it broke and all that stuff. Like I haven't, or my castle is degrading because I'm not up, managing the upkeeps and all that stuff. Like I've made it a fairly easy going game. And that's why I feel like it's kind of a cozy game, despite the violence, despite the subject matter. It's just like, hey man, I'm just doing my vampire thing. I'm just chilling. I'm just, building myself one of the things that I did is I started out very early and I made a very like boxy castle. But what I realized is by making the castle boxy, I had to cut down a lot of trees in the environment in order to have the resources. So there was this thing where like there's these steps that go up to my castle, but once you get up the steps, it's like a lot of just like clear forested area until you get to the doors. So I was like, well, that's not right. So I built like a long hallway that goes from the steps with the doors that swing wide open. And then I had like then I set up a bunch of torches. So you're kind of walking down this like, lit hallway as you enter my castle. And then my castle just looks like a bunch of random stuff. Cause I was like, oh, I got to put the sawmill hill. Oh my God, I don't know where to put all this stuff these machines that I'm building. But it's been a lot of fun. Really, really enjoying it. I'll keep at it. For sure. I mean, V Rising, very similar to something like Power World, very similar to something like Fallout 76 in terms of crafting, upgrade machines and shelter and doing all that stuff. So if that is your thing, you should check out V Rising. I've been really enjoying it and I'm going to keep playing it. And then in terms of other things I've been playing, I hope that I am done Marvel Midnight Suns this time next week. We'll see how that goes. I still have about 5 or 6 story missions left in Midnight Suns, so it might require a couple of serious gameplay sessions, but we'll see how that goes. But that's going to do for the podcast. I have been GnittWitt. You can find me on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram over at GnittWitt, linktree.com/GnittWitt for all the locations of my social media accounts. Thank you so much for hanging out, stopping by, saying hi, kicking it with me today, and we will see you all next week. Thank you for watching, listening, and hanging out. Take it easy.